The Disney film Hercules shows interesting relationships between Hercules and other characters. One such relationship is that between Hercules and his mentor Phil. At first it seems like Phil cares for Hercules, but their relationship ends up being nothing more than a desire for fame and fortune. This strange relationship, as well as Phil's own actions, show that Phil may suffer from antisocial personality disorder, also called sociopathy. Health.com's 9 sociopath traits quotes Donald Black, a professor of psychiatry, saying that sociopathy is a syndrome characterized by lifelong misbehavior. The article then proceeds to list 9 symptoms of being a sociopath, most of which Phil shows to have in the movie. Firstly, sociopaths should have difficult relationships. Rather than create meaningful connections with people in their lives, they try to exploit them for their own benefit. When we first meet Phil, we see him peeping and chasing nymphs rather than talking to them like a normal person. He doesn't seem to care about the nymphs as people, but only as things that can benefit him in a likely sexual way. We also see that Phil doesn't really get close with anyone but Hercules. Phil and Pegasus aren't very close, and Phil seems to dislike almost everyone he meets in the movie. He clearly needs to work on his people skills. This also ties in with a second symptom of manipulativeness. Sociopaths are known to try and seduce the people around themselves for their own gain, and they are usually known as charismatic. While Phil doesn't seem like the charismatic type, Dr. Black says this isn't unusual as he sees plenty of antisocial men in a hospital and he would not use the term charming to describe them. Though Phil might be more charismatic than we know. At the end of the movie, he does manage to get a kiss from the goddess of beauty herself, Aphrodite. The third trait is deceitfulness, but Phil never lies to anyone or is seen as deceitful. However, when Phil tries to tell Hercules the truth about Meg, Hercules thinks he's lying. While not likely, it is possible that Phil has lied to Hercules before, and that's why Herc doesn't initially believe him. The next 2 traits exemplify Phil very well, callousness and hostility. Phil is very quick to get angry and aggressive if he feels he is wronged. In this scene, he literally turns red with anger after being insulted by the people of Thebes. Additionally, when Phil first meets Meg, he tries to flirt with her, and she rejects him. Because of this, Phil immediately distrusts her. Even though his distrust turns out to be right, being rejected is no reason to immediately dislike someone. However, an argument could be made that Phil only dislikes Meg because she distracts Hercules, and Phil is doing what's best for Hercules by disliking Meg. The next trait is irresponsibility. When we first meet Phil, his house is completely cluttered with old artifacts of his days as a trainer. Then, when Phil agrees to train Hercules, we see a montage of overgrown training fields and more artifacts all just laying around outside. This is not the kind of living conditions a grown man should have, even if he has given up on ever being a successful trainer. The next trait is impulsivity. Phil shows this trait when he is insulted by the people of Thebes. What does Phil do when Hercules' rogue abilities are being questioned? Well, he doesn't keep a calm head and asks the people of Thebes to give Hercules a chance. Instead, he just jumps in and viciously attacks one of the citizens. The final 2 traits are likely the biggest examples of Phil's possible sociopathy, lack of empathy and risky behavior. Phil shows us his lack of concern many times. When Phil is reminiscing about his past students, he doesn't show any sadness or remorse for their presumed deaths. His only regret is that none of the 5 famous heroes, Jason, Odysseus, Achilles, Theseus, or Perseus, were enough of a hero to be put in the stars. Wait a second. Anyways, later in the film we see Hercules get devoured by a Hydra and Phil's reaction to this. Does Phil show any sadness over losing his new friend? Does he shed a single tear for the new lost? No, he just says, with an inflection that says, well, there goes my last chance to make a name for myself, oh well. As for risky behavior, though Phil himself is quick to dash out of trouble, he's more than happy to let Hercules fight something that may kill him. In this scene, we just saw Hercules narrowly defeat a single-headed Hydra, but when we see the Hydra's single-beheaded neck suddenly grow 3 new heads, rather than telling Herc to run for his life, Phil just shoves Herc's sword back in his hand and runs to save his own ass. Later in the film, however, we do get to see Phil act empathetic. When Phil overhears the truth about Meg's deal with Hades, he looks sad for Hercules, even though no one is watching him. Sociopaths are known to act emotional around others if they think it will benefit them. In this case, no one but the gods are watching Phil, so he has no reason to seem sad for Hercules. Perhaps Phil is showing true empathy for Hercules here. Even though Phil acts like a jerk, his possible sociopathy might actually be a good representation for sociopaths in film. If Phil truly is a sociopath, this movie helps to clear up some misconceptions of sociopaths. Most people tend to associate the term with some murderous villain like Hannibal Lecter, but this is not the case. The more murderous and crazy sociopaths are actually referred to as psychopaths. Most people tend to use the 2 terms interchangeably, but there are important differences in the 2. Most sociopaths do tend to be reckless and impulsive, but they aren't usually thieves or murderers. Some very mild sociopaths might just lie or get in trouble with their spouses, and that's about it. If Phil is a sociopath, Hercules serves as a nice demonstration of how real sociopaths tend to act in life. Though Phil is more of a jerk than most sociopaths are, it is still a better representation than the killers and freaks that normally portray sociopaths. Had Disney explicitly made Phil a sociopath, it likely would have received a lot of criticism, but it would have helped inform the general populace a lot more about mental disorders and mental health. Phil's possible sociopathy can be debated. He shows many signs of being a sociopath, but he can also show true emotion from time to time. So, does Phil actually suffer from sociopathy, or is he just a perv with a short temper? Let me know what you think.